What if I told you that the sleek, beautifully textured wood paneling at your favorite recently renovated grocery store
Hmm.
isn't actually wood at all?
Right. It's definitely not what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, what if instead you're looking at this highly engineered technology that was literally born in the gritty depths of the New York City subway system? Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone.
Glad to be here.
Today, our mission is to explore the hidden high-tech way that massive commercial brands are completely overhauling their retail stores overnight, and doing it without you, the consumer, ever seeing a single speck of dust.
It honestly sounds impossible, right? But the source material we are examining today lays out the mechanics of this massive industry shift in incredible detail.
Yeah, we're looking at a fascinating presentation and a really detailed slide deck from the BuildPoint 2026 conference.
Exactly. And this wasn't public. It was a private session delivered by a major construction innovator directly to top facilities executives from retail giants. We're talking Walmart, CVS, Lowe's, HEB,
Heavy hitters.
the heaviest. And the core tension of this entire presentation really comes down to a battle between two philosophies, which are traditional wet construction versus modern, dry architectural transformations.
Right, and I want to paint a picture of that traditional method wet construction
Yeah.
because the presenter uses a phrase that I absolutely love for this. He calls it death by 1,000 dumpsters.
It is so accurate.
Because, think about it, imagine your local grocery store needs an update. The old way means swinging sledgehammers, hauling away heavy debris, putting up drywall, you've got sanding,
Christy
painting.
Foubling blocking the main entrance.
Exactly. And, fine white dust settling on the organic apples,
Yeah.
or chain link fencing eating up half the parking lot for, like, 3 months.
Which creates massive, massive friction for the shopper because a loyal customer pulls up, sees the dumpsters, the contractors, the sheer chaos, and they just keep driving.
Yeah, they just go to the competitor down the street.
Right. So when these executives hear death by 1,000 dumpsters, they aren't just thinking about the physical mess. They are actively calculating the catastrophic hit to the store's revenue
Yeah.
and the erosion of customer loyalty while that construction drags on.
Okay, let's unpack this. We know the old way is a total revenue killer.
Hmm.
But the alternative, this dry transformation concept, is fascinating to me because of where it comes from. You'd think a high-end architectural finish would be developed by, I don't know, some boutique design firm in Milan.
Oh, not even close. The presenter shares that their technical roots are actually in San Francisco's sign shops.
Bank shops.
Yeah, mastering the absolute fundamentals of industrial vinyl and adhesives. But the true crucible, the proving ground that makes this viable for a massive national retail rollout, was transit, specifically the New York City subway system.
Wow.
They were tasked with developing materials that could survive that specific environment.
Okay, I have to push back here on behalf of anyone listening who has ever tried to put a decal on their laptop. Because if we're talking about materials derived from sign shops and transit graphics, aren't we just talking about, like, giant glorified stickers? A car wrap for a building.
It sounds like it, yeah.
Because if I put a heavy-duty sticker on my kitchen counter, it's going to start peeling at the corners in about a week. How can something like that possibly survive thousands of shopping carts and a high-volume supermarket environment?
And that is the exact skepticism the executives in that room had. But what's fascinating here is the sheer microscopic engineering behind the material. I mean, this is not craft store vinyl.
Right.
To prove it, the speaker actually did a tactile innovation pass-around.
Mm-hmm.
He handed out physical swatches so these executives could literally try to destroy them with their car keys right there in the boardroom.
Oh, wow, just scratching away at them.
Yeah, going to town. Because we are talking about highly engineered architectural grade materials like 3M DINOC, Trespa, and ACM wraps.
Let me pause you on those terms because the sources mention them heavily. What exactly are Trespa and ACM?
Okay, so Trespa is a high-pressure laminate. Imagine taking layers of wood-based fibers, soaking them in resin, and compressing them under immense heat and pressure.
Okay.
You do that until they become a single, incredibly dense, rock-hard panel. That's Trespa. And then ACM stands for aluminum composite material.
Aluminum composite. Got it.
Think of it like a rigid ice cream sandwich. You have two thin sheets of high-strength aluminum bonded to a solid non-aluminum core.
Which makes it lighter.
Exactly. It gives you the structural rigidity of thick metal panels, but at a fraction of the weight. And then there are the structural films themselves, like 3M DINOC, which carry a specific designation you have to look for, which is AR.
AR, meaning abrasion resistant,
You
right?
got it. Abrasion resistant. So this isn't just a color change printed on some cheap plastic. It is a functional structural barrier.
How does that actually work, though? Like, mechanically?
Well, the top layer of an AR film isn't just standard polyurethane. It incorporates advanced cross-linked polymers. At a microscopic level, the molecules are tightly bonded in a rigid grid.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, which makes it incredibly difficult for a foreign object to gouge or penetrate the surface. You can wrap a pharmacy pickup window, a surface where, thousands of plastic baskets, metal keys, and heavy items just slide across it every single day, and the surface simply does not scuff.
But what about chemical wear? Because especially post-2020, retail environments are obsessed with sanitation.
Oh, absolutely.
If a hospital-grade disinfectant will strip the lacquer right off a traditional painted wood counter, how does a synthetic film survive an employee wiping it down with industrial bleach every hour?
Because of that exact same cross-linked polymer structure we just talked about, it makes the surface chemically inert.
Meaning chemicals can't soak in.
Exactly. Traditional paint is porous, right? Chemicals seep into those pores, they break down the binders and cause the paint to lift or dissolve.
Right, it gets sticky and gross.
Yeah. But these architectural films are totally non-porous. Harsh, hospital-grade disinfectants just sit on the top layer without ever penetrating the chemical structure. It is an engineered, permanent solution.
Okay, well, it makes total sense why the subway testing was so critical. Because if it can survive the physical and chemical abuse of a transit hub in New York, a grocery store is basically a walk in the park.
Exactly.
But businesses run on spreadsheets, not just durability tests. A material only matters if the financial mechanics make sense to the CFO.
Right. And the presenter addresses that by pointing to a specific crucible moment in the company's history, which was the 2008 financial crisis.
Rough time for construction.
Brutal. Corporate capital budgets were totally frozen. Nobody was approving multi-million-dollar structural rebuilds, but companies still had aging facilities that were actively hurting their brand perception.
So things looked bad, but they had no money to fix them.
Exactly. And this company stepped in to bridge that gap, and they did it by speaking the language of finance. The speaker actually brings his background as an alum of the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Businesses program into the pitch.
Smart. Know your audience.
Very smart. He frames everything around speed to market and minimizing operational downtime.
And he brings up a case study that perfectly illustrates this, the Row Hotel mock-up. And there's a detail here that really stood out to me. They didn't just walk into this high-traffic hotel and slap some film over a battered hallway door.
No.
They used something called a Bondo and sand protocol. Now, I know Bondo as the automotive body filler I used to fix a dent in my old Honda Civic in high school. What is autofiller doing in a luxury hotel hallway?
It's serving the exact same purpose, just on a commercial architectural scale. Think about it. If you apply a pristine, micro-thin architectural film over a door that has deep gouges from luggage carts, what happens?
It just highlights the gouge, right? Like shrink wrap over a dent.
Precisely. The film conforms to the damage. The substrate, the underlying surface, has to be absolutely perfect. So their crews come in, they use industrial fillers like Bondo to repair the structural damage. They sand the entire door down to a perfectly flush surface, and only then do they apply the film.
That makes a lot of sense.
They are essentially restoring the physical integrity of the asset before upgrading its aesthetic.
So the finish looks premium on day one, and it stays flawless through year 5. And the financial graph the presenter shows to back this up is wild.
It really is.
Like, if a hotel buys a brand new architectural wood door, that is a massive $2,000 upfront hit. If they just paint the old, damaged door, the upfront cost is low, but you have this constant rising maintenance cost because the paint chips and you have to pay a crew to repaint it every single year.
Right, death by 1,000 touch-ups.
Exactly. But the architectural film flattens that maintenance curve entirely. Get the $2,000 premium wood, look for a fraction of the cost, and it stops demanding constant upkeep.
And the broader financial strategy is even more compelling when you look at how corporations handle their taxes. Traditional wet construction like tearing down walls, replacing fixtures is classified as a capital expenditure, a CapEx.
Right. And here's where it gets really interesting. I want to translate this CapEx concept for the listeners because it's basically a massive cheat code for these companies.
It really is.
Think about it like owning a car. If you buy a brand new engine for your car, that is a major capital investment. The IRS says you can't deduct that entire cost from your taxes this year. You have to spread that deduction out over the useful life of the engine, maybe 5 or 10 years.
Right.
In commercial real estate, depreciating a structural renovation can take nearly 40 years. But if you just get an expensive oil change and a premium detail job, that is considered immediate maintenance. You write it off right away.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. Because the IRS classifies applying these films as a surface improvement rather than structural wet construction, it shifts the project from a long-term capital expenditure into an operational or maintenance expense.
OpEx instead of CapEx.
Exactly. The depreciation schedule is highly accelerated. The corporate bottom line gets the tax benefit almost immediately instead of waiting decades. This makes CFOs incredibly happy. But what makes the construction managers happy is how this company positions itself alongside traditional general contractors.
Honestly, I was surprised by that. Usually, in commercial construction, everyone is fighting for the biggest piece of the pie. You want to be the sole contractor. But this presenter basically tells the executives, do not fire your general contractor. Keep them for the heavy lifting.
It's a brilliant collaborative strategy. General contractors, GCs, are elite at infrastructure, putting up steel, routing plumbing, pulling electrical wire. Where massive retail projects inevitably fall apart is the final 5%.
The finish work.
Yes, the aesthetic details. Waiting for custom millwork to arrive from overseas can delay a grand opening by months. This company steps in to be what they call the finishing strike.
I love that phrase.
Right. They pull the highly specialized, tedious aesthetic finish work entirely out of the GC's schedule. By handling that phase overnight with specialized crews, they actually make the general contractor look like a hero who finishes the infrastructure under budget and ahead of time.
Okay, so the interior walls and doors are handled. The spreadsheets are optimized, the CFO is thrilled, and the GC gets a trophy.
Basically, yeah.
But a commercial building is not just interior walls. What about the exterior? What about the glass? Because wrapping a checkout counter is one thing. Wrapping a building's exterior and changing how it functions against the elements seems like a totally different ballgame.
It is a different ballgame, and it requires a total shift from aesthetic films to purely functional technology. The presenter refers to this phase as installing the invisible armor.
Okay, invisible armor.
Yeah. He asks the audience to visualize a massive retail storefront in a brutal climate, like Orlando, Florida in August. A giant pane of storefront glass isn't just a window to display products. From an engineering perspective, it is a massive thermal hole in the building's envelope.
Oh, because the heat is just pouring in.
Exactly. The HVC systems are running at maximum capacity, fighting a losing battle against the solar heat pounding through that glass all day long.
And the standard fix for that used to be applying a dark, heavy tint to the windows. But retail stores hate that because it makes the store look closed or totally uninviting from the street. Instead, this company uses multi-layer optical film. And the claim in the sources is that it rejects up to 97% of infrared light.
Yep, 97%.
How does it physically do that without just blocking all the light and making the store pitch black inside?
It relies on nanotechnology and structural reflectance. Think about the iridescent colors on a butterfly's wing or like a soap bubble.
Okay, yeah.
There is no actual pigment there. The microscopic physical structure of the surface is bouncing specific wavelengths of light back at your eye while letting others pass through. The optical film works on a very similar principle.
So it's basically filtering light at a microscopic level.
Exactly. It contains hundreds of microscopic layers engineered to specifically target and reflect the infrared spectrum, which is the light that carries heat, while allowing the visible light spectrum to pass straight through.
So the store stays perfectly bright and inviting, but the heat literally just bounces off the exterior.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the operational consequences of that are massive. They use e-film energy audits, basically placing temperature loggers inside the store to prove the impact.
Show them the actual data.
Right. By rejecting that thermal energy before it enters the sales floor, the cycle load of the HVAC compressors drops significantly. The air conditioning units don't have to turn on as frequently, and they don't run as long.
Which instantly slashes the monthly utility bill.
Yes. But more importantly, reducing that workload extends the physical lifespan of the HVAC equipment itself. It delays another massive capital replacement cost for those executives down the road.
That's huge. And while they have a specialized crew on site dealing with the thermal dynamics of the glass, they also tackle what the presenter openly calls 2026's elephant in the room.
Oh, retail security.
Exactly. We have all seen the viral videos of smash and grab robberies.
Yeah.
So during the exact same overnight mobilization, they apply safety and security films to the storefront.
And this is a critical upgrade right now. Standard commercial glass shatters instantly when struck with a heavy tool. The security film fundamentally changes the physics of the window. It is a high-strength, multi-layered polyester membrane,
Like wrapping it in Kevlar almost?
kind of. But the real magic is the adhesive. It doesn't just stick to the glass. It utilizes a structural silicone adhesive that bonds the microscopic pores of the glass directly to the structural metal frame of the window itself.
Wait, so if a thief hits the window with a hammer, the glass still breaks?
The glass shatters, yes. But the film acts like a flexible, high-tensile net. It holds all those shattered shards tightly together and keeps the entire pane anchored into the metal frame.
Oh, wow.
So instead of a gaping hole that someone can step right through, the thief is faced with this flexible, tear-resistant barrier that absorbs repeated impacts. It creates a massive delay, which is really the ultimate deterrent in retail crime. It gives law enforcement time to respond while protecting the staff inside.
It is basically like simultaneously installing a highly advanced thermal blanket and a bulletproof vest on your building, and doing it so seamlessly that your customers don't even know it's there.
I love that analogy. And this dual-layered approach of driving energy efficiency while upgrading asset protection feeds directly into another major boardroom priority: ESG, or environmental, social, and governance goals.
Oh, right, sustainability.
The presenter is very blunt about this. By 2026, corporate greenwashing, making vague marketing claims about loving the environment, is dead.
Boards want numbers now.
Exactly. Executive boards demand hard, verifiable data, and this process delivers it. By applying architectural firms to existing doors, counters, and facades, instead of ripping them out and sending them to a dump, they are achieving massive landfill diversion.
Yeah, the numbers in the presentation are staggering. Refinishing just half of a standard retail store's surfaces keeps the equivalent volume of 6 semi-trucks worth of construction waste out of the local landfill.
6 semi-trucks.
Per half store. They are reducing the waste profile of a renovation by up to 96% compared to the old death by 1,000 dumpsters method.
She's incredible.
If you're an executive walking into a board meeting with verifiable data showing you cut renovation waste by 96% makes you look like an absolute visionary.
It is an irrefutable sustainability win.
Yeah.
But, here is the reality check. The polymer chemistry working, the tax mechanics making sense, the ESG data being solid, none of that actually matters to a national retail behemoth if the vendor cannot execute the work at a massive scale.
That's the catch.
Doing one boutique hotel lobby in a vacuum is easy. Doing thousands of sprawling retail locations simultaneously across the country without interrupting store operations, that is a completely different logistical beast.
Right, because if I'm an executive at Walmart, I honestly don't care if you can perfectly wrap one checkout counter in a controlled environment in San Francisco. I need to know if you can mobilize crews to wrap 1,000 stores across 4 time zones without dropping the ball.
And the presenter anticipates that exact concern. He brings up their ultimate proof point, which is a continuous 1,000-plus store rollout specifically executed for Walmart.
Wow, okay, they answer that.
They managed the sprawling supply chain, they coordinated the overnight installation crews, and maintained absolute brand spec consistency across the entire country. And consistency is the magic word for the specific executives sitting in that build point conference room, because their needs are wildly diverse.
You can see that just by looking at the attendee list he references.
Yeah.
You have Brandon Pullman from HEB. He needs premium DINOC wood grains to maintain an upscale, inviting environment for a premium grocery shopper.
Right.
But then you have Josh Minton from Lowe's. He doesn't need luxury. He needs extreme high-traffic durability for their heavy-duty pro desks where, contractors are just throwing tools and lumber around.
And then you look at Keith Isley from Panda Express, who needs advanced sun control for his dining areas so customers aren't blinded by glare while they eat. Or Adam Tipton from FedEx Ground, who is managing massive logistics hubs and needs high-strength security film to protect critical sorting infrastructure.
So many different use cases.
Right. The sheer adaptability of this dry transformation process is what makes it a viable national solution. A vendor can deploy crews from Anchorage, Alaska to Miami, Florida, and ensure the HEB in Texas gets the exact same flawless application as the Lowe's in Seattle.
And to really drive that point home about execution, the presenter shows a slide that I think is his ultimate flex. It is the Times Square slide.
Oh, yeah.
He shows a picture of a massive, highly complex architectural wrap they executed right in the middle of a crowded Times Square in New York City. The unsaid message is just so clear.
Basically, if we can make it stick here.
Yeah. Look, if we can manage the insane logistics, the pedestrian crowds, the permits, and the sheer complexity required to make our material stick flawlessly here, in the middle of the night in Manhattan, we can easily manage the logistics of updating your suburban grocery storefront.
It builds an incredibly high level of trust. I mean, they have proven the microscopic durability of the materials. They have proven the accelerated tax benefits. They have proven the security upgrades and the massive scale.
A full package.
So you would expect the presenter to close the pitch by asking these executives to sign a massive multi-million-dollar portfolio contract right then and there.
So what does this all mean for the actual close? Because the psychological brilliance of the final ask was honestly my favorite part of the entire transcript.
Hmm?
He doesn't ask for a massive contract. He doesn't ask them to commit their entire fleet of stores.
Yeah, not at all. He asked them for their problem child.
The problem child.
Every single retail executive has one. It is that ugly, hopelessly dated location, the store that generates endless customer complaints, the regional managers hate visiting, but that has absolutely zero capital budget allocated to fix it.
Right.
The presenter simply asks them to hand over that one specific nightmare location for a pilot program.
Give us your problem child.
Mm.
It is a masterclass in sales psychology. He tells them, let us wrap the exterior in ACM to modernize the facade. Let us update the interior fixtures with DINOC wood grain. Let us secure the glass with safety film. We will prove to you that we can do in 48 hours what a traditional wet construction crew takes 4 weeks to do.
It is an irresistible, incredibly low-risk proposition for a skeptical executive because, think about it, if the pilot fails, they only risked a tiny amount of operational budget on a problem child store that already looked terrible. They haven't lost anything.
It was already a disaster.
Right, but if the pilot succeeds, they have suddenly unlocked a corporate cheat code. They now have a verified mechanism to refresh their entire national portfolio overnight at a fraction of the cost without closing their doors to a single customer. It completely shifts the paradigm of facility management.
It really does shift the paradigm. So to kind of bring this all together for you listening, the retail world that you and I walk through every single day is being quietly, invisibly transformed while we sleep.
Definitely.
The transition away from the sledgehammers, the scaffolding, and the dumpsters of wet construction and moving toward these highly engineered, dry architectural films, it represents a massive leap forward. It is a leap in speed of execution and thermal and physical security, in verified sustainability, and honestly, in pure financial efficiency.
And understanding this really changes how you look at the built environment around you. The next time you walk into a beautifully renovated hospital lobby or you grab a coffee and slide your keys across a pristine convenience store checkout counter, I want you to look really closely at that sleek metal pillar or that rich wood grain.
Yeah, take a second look.
Because you might not be looking at newly milled lumber or freshly cast steel. You might be touching the exact high-performance, transit-tested architectural film we spent today discussing.
It leaves you with a really fascinating, almost science fiction thought to ponder. If our physical spaces, the interior walls, the heavy doors, the massive exterior facades, are increasingly becoming these modular high-tech skins that we just seamlessly apply over older structural skeletons, what does that actually mean for the future of architecture?
It's a great question.
Will commercial buildings ever truly age anymore? Or will we just keep downloading and applying physical updates to them overnight, exactly like we do with the software on our phones? Think about that the next time you walk into your local grocery store on a Wednesday morning and realize you are no longer standing in 1998.